Ethan Rhodes was a name known in tech circles, but in his penthouse, he lived in near silence. He preferred it that way, no distractions, no emotional noise. Each morning, Rosa, his maid, arrived punctually, quietly beginning her work. She never lingered, never asked for anything, just moved like a shadow, dusting surfaces, folding laundry, making his world tidy. He never paid her much attention until one morning changed everything. Ethan was seated at his desk, reviewing reports, when he glanced up and saw her wiping the shelves near the window. The sunlight caught something unexpected, a streak on her cheek. A tear. She quickly turned away, pretending nothing had happened, continuing her tasks as if nothing were wrong. But Ethan couldn't unsee it. Why was she crying? He watched her silently for the first time, not as hired help, but as a human being. She looked tired, her hands worn, her expression far away. That tear haunted him. For someone who solved billion-dollar problems daily, this one was suddenly more urgent. Who is Rosa, really? That question wouldn't leave his mind all day. She came, worked, and left as usual. But now, Ethan realized he knew nothing about the person who'd walked into his home every day for years. Not her story, not her struggles, nothing. In that quiet, sterile apartment filled with expensive things, Ethan felt something stir. A curiosity, a pull, perhaps even a sense of guilt. For the first time, he wanted to see the person the world overlooked. That evening, curiosity overtook Ethan's usual routine. He waited until Rosa clocked out and quietly followed her, blending into the crowd beneath a hoodie and dark sunglasses. She moved with purpose, unaware of the man trailing behind. Ethan, used to boardrooms and Bentley rides, now found himself navigating crowded subways and waiting at graffiti-marked bus stops. Rosa took 2 transfers, then walked through cracked sidewalks into a neighborhood that bore the weight of hardship. Finally, she entered a worn-down brick building with a faded sign, Hope Haven Community Center. Ethan hesitated, then crept closer, peering through the dusty windows. Inside, his world turned upside down. Rosa, who barely spoke at his apartment, now radiated life. Children swarmed around her, some with crutches, others with bald heads or tired eyes. Rosa served warm meals, tied shoelaces, wiped noses. She knelt beside a girl in a wheelchair and helped her with a coloring book. A boy limped to her side, and she scooped him into a hug with such tenderness, Ethan's heart ached. Then, she led them in song. Her voice was soft but sure, rising like sunlight through clouds. The children smiled, swayed, even laughed. In this broken place, Rosa wasn't just a maid, she was a lifeline. Ethan leaned back against the wall, stunned. The woman he'd barely noticed all these years was quietly holding the world together for these children. For the first time in his life, Ethan Rhodes didn't feel like the richest man in the room. Ethan remained hidden in the shadows of the community center, trying to blend into the peeling walls and worn furniture. The warmth and energy of the room buzzed around him, laughter, footsteps, crayons scratching paper, but his eyes stayed fixed on Rosa. She was kneeling next to a child when a nurse approached her quietly, clipboard in hand and worry in her expression. Ethan leaned in, listening. "We're almost out of food and medical supplies," the nurse said gently. "And next month's rent, we might not make it. We may have to shut down." Rosa stood slowly, her face tight with concern. She looked around the room, at the children laughing, eating, learning, and her voice cracked as she replied, "They have no one else. This place is all they've got." She took a breath, forcing hope into her words. "I'll figure something out. I always do." Ethan felt his throat tighten. This woman, who scrubbed his marble floors and polished silver faucets, was running a lifeline out of scraps. With barely enough money to survive herself, Rosa was giving these children food, comfort, and dignity. Not for praise. Not for attention. Simply because it was right. He watched as she picked up a small boy with a breathing tube, rocking him gently as if the world wasn't falling apart around her. At that moment, Ethan realized something he'd never learned in boardrooms or spreadsheets: real wealth wasn't in what you kept. It was in what you gave away. The next morning, the penthouse was unusually quiet. Rosa entered as always, early, unnoticed, ready to begin her routine. But as she stepped into the gleaming kitchen, something unfamiliar caught her eye. An envelope. Cream-colored, with her name written in elegant handwriting. She hesitated, then picked it up with trembling fingers. Inside was a check, $500,000. Her breath caught. She stared at it, stunned, then slowly unfolded the small note tucked beside it. For the hearts you heal that no one sees. From someone who finally does. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks, not from sorrow this time, but from something deeper. Relief. Gratitude. Wonder. She clutched the note to her chest, her voice breaking in a whisper, "Thank you, God." Behind her, just out of sight, Ethan stood in the hallway, watching. He had never seen someone react to money like this, not with greed or calculation, but with a reverence that came from knowing what it could truly mean. Not for cars or status, but for children, medicine, survival. In that moment, Ethan realized he wasn't just changing her life. Rosa had already changed his. He turned away, giving her the privacy of her joy, but something inside him shifted permanently. It was no longer about fortune, it was about purpose. And for the first time in years, Ethan Rhodes felt something more powerful than success. He felt human. A year had passed, but the change was unmistakable. Where once stood a crumbling building, now rose a vibrant, sunlit space alive with color, laughter, and hope. The sign above its entrance read in bold letters, "Rosa's Light, a place to grow." Children ran through the courtyard with books and toys, their faces beaming with joy and belonging. Ethan stood beside Rosa, both watching the scene unfold with quiet pride. He wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, a far cry from his penthouse image. Every Thursday, he came here, not as a donor, but as a volunteer. Reading stories, sweeping floors, helping serve meals. He wasn't Ethan Rhodes the millionaire anymore. He was simply Mr. Ethan to the kids. Rosa, her eyes brighter than ever, turned to him and smiled. "You didn't just change their lives, you changed mine." He looked at her, humbled. "No, Rosa. You changed mine first." They stood in silence, taking it all in. The building. The laughter. The legacy of kindness born from a single tear on a quiet morning. As the camera pulls back, the center glows under a golden sky. The sun filters through the sign, making it shine like a beacon. And beneath it, the truth stands tall. Hope doesn't need wealth. Just a willing heart.